So, welcome back to Who Am I? I got a pretty good episode in the can yesterday morning, so I'm going to see if I can build on that today. Who am I? Who am I? It's the question we ask every day. Every human being existing upon the planet has the right to ask this question. And the answers that I've come up with are just my own answers. They're just my own answers. They're nobody else's answers. But I think they're interesting, and I think that other people might find the dots that I have connected interesting as well. And so, because of that, I think that's why I feel compelled to do this every morning. I get up early and I come down into my space and I think about this question: Who am I? Who am I? How am I designed? And how is it that I get what I want in this world? How does my equipment operate? Who am I as a biotechnology? Who am I as a powerful creator? Who am I as consciousness? Who am I as a species? Who am I as an individual? And most importantly, who am I in reference to source energy? Source energy, it's what we talk about all day long. And it's just my observations, what I have put together. Um, I've never put that disclaimer in. I somehow felt that I needed to do that today. I'm not trying to start a cult. I'm not trying to start a group in any way. As a matter of fact, I'm a very private person and don't really want to have to do with too much with too many people. Um, I just want to share what I think's going on, and then you get to decide for yourself. And actually, that's the beauty and the magic of the whole system. It's designed to be that way. Every individual sussing it out for themselves through their own guidance system. And you can kind of collectively hand it over to the group if the group is in alignment. If generally the general bulk of us understand who we are, how we're designed, and how to go about living your life. How do you go about responding to, now, I was going to say tragedy or challenges or perhaps, well, just how do you do that? How do you do that? I believe that you do it through a better understanding of your design. That when you operate counter and contra to reality, that things don't go as well. So it's helpful to understand how reality is actually organized. And this has to do with how I'm organized within it and how it's organized around me because I'm part of a greater field. It's not just me. I am a field phenomenon along with all of you. And the human species is a single morphogenetic field upon this planet. There is no us and them, by the way. And so if you are looking at the situation, the political situation or the I don't know how would you put this. The I guess it is the geopolitical situation. So there's the intra-political situation, like between the Republicans and the Democrats here in the United States, and then there's the geopolitical system as all of the nations interact with one another, sometimes going to war, sometimes making survival pacts with one another, all that kind of stuff. There's when you see that, when you see your neighbors misbehaving, when you see that he's the one that dropped the bomb first, or whatever, and you start thinking that you can devolve into the specifics on a negative plane, the fact is, there is no us and them, there is only us. And what you're witnessing is actually a broader field phenomenon that we need to understand from that level and then operate with our own individual guidance systems and that'll get us out of the problem. Actually, my other part of my thesis is I do believe that the growing tension between all the nations of the world and the way that we squabble and fight over resources, the thing is the way the biofield is designed, every individual should be able to carve out a piece of abundance in their own neighborhood. And why human beings live in such a way that we can't is sort of mystifying. But it doesn't matter. The fact is that there is an answer to this. I'm going to say easy answer. It's easy in concept. Going to take some, what is this going to take? I don't want to say effort, but it is going to take some effort to actually accomplish this. The problem is fossil fuels. Pure and simple. Full stop. Don't go any farther than that. Don't say, oh, yeah, that's true, but there's nothing you can do about that, so I'm going to look at it this way. No! I'm not going to look at anything until we address the elephant in the room. The problem is fossil fuels, and the answer is over unity devices of all sorts, as well as plugging directly into the quantum field. There's lots of options, actually, and the fact that we believe that there are no options and that this path that we have taken is inevitable is because we've sort of been nudged that way, guided that way, gently, you know, um, encouraged that way, sometimes forced that way. Our conventional education systems teach our young physicists that over unity is impossible. That um, that source energy is stochastic and cancels out, so there's nothing to see there. It may be an infinite source of energy, but it's everywhere and it all cancels out, so there's no way to plug into it. But actually there is. There is a way to plug into it, and the biggest reason, let me have a disclaimer. I was about to declare something emphatically. It's because I really believe it. My disclaimer is that everything that I say in my program is just what I believe. It isn't anything else, it's just what I believe. And actually, that's both profound and completely non threatening. Because as long as it's just what I believe, then you can take it into yourself as you will or not. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. Although I would love to convince people of something. First of all, that we don't need to be on fossil fuels. We really don't need to be on fossil fuels. That's probably my biggest message. But then, I'm going to talk to you about what I have come to understand about our nature, about the nature of reality, and you create your own reality, and the law of attraction. Actually, the law of attraction is a funny thing. The law of attraction will bring unto yourself like thoughts, no matter what it is you're thinking. So whatever jag you go down, the law of attraction will hand you like thoughts, seeming to confirm your every belief. So I do understand that, I'm a part of that too. I could have gotten lost in a crazy loop, but it doesn't matter. The actual situation is that we're all just perception anyway. It's all perception. And the view, the holy divine view of all things is just all of our perspectives added together. Each one of us is casting a little bit of light on the big picture of the wholeness, the grand almighty that we are all a part of. You are part of a broader field phenomenon. That's a big thing to understand. You're a vibrational being in a vibrational universe. And you are a binary system in more ways than one. Fundamentally, your binary system comes from being the formless coming into form. That is who you are at your most fundamental level. You are the quantum field, which is a morphogenetic field that can literally become anything. It's like this 3D printer that runs on, of all things, desire. And it's the desire of every one of us that tags into this great mixture that becomes the divine almighty. And you're part of it. I mean, we are all importantly part of this. Another part of this is the universe is holographic. It really is. It's holographic. And that's how the system that I'm going to talk about for probably an hour and a half this morning. Hour and a half seems to be good if I'm really doing good work and finding new ground and really having a good time. It might go a little longer. It will be less than 2 hours, but we're gonna bite into this and see what sort of new understandings we can find as we discuss this question, who am I? So at your most fundamental level, who you are is the formless coming into form. You are that. You are the quantum field. You are Planck. You're made of Plancks. All of your elements, your mass, every one of your atoms, your molecules, they're all Plancks spinning. Because the reason I know this is because everything's Planck spinning. It's like this super fluid, this super plasma, sort of like cosmic Play-Doh, the essence that everything is made of. It's all made of the same thing. And what is this thing? It's Plancks. And what are Plancks? Well, they're little frequencies. And they're at the smallest imaginable in this mathematical scale, unless you go to just another factor down. You could go another factor down, but it's the smallest that you could have in this density, in this universe. A Planck is you take a packet, a single packet of light energy, which it's very, very small, going at the speed of light, crossing its own diameter. And it's like that kind of a blip. It's just a little dot frequency. Turns out that the space-time around us is dense pack, these Plancks. And when they go into organization, when they go into spin, and what causes this cosmic spin is gradient density in the field. And the hugest gradient density in the field is the difference between the cosmological density and the quantum density. It's that gradient that's throwing the whole machinery into spin. All of the quasars and the galaxies and the clusters and the planets and the stars and the atoms and everything spinning is because of that. That's how the mechanics of the general mechanics of the machinery is working. And you're a part of that. You're sitting right there in the middle of that, and the whole thing is spin. And it's not just spin, think about it this way. It's like there, and this is, you got to kind of let your mind float here to get this one. But it's like there's this infinitude of spins, individuated spins. Every proton is a little vortex of this ether spinning, these Plancks spinning. And there's just spin, spin, spin. Everything is spin. It's all spin. As a matter of fact, it's nothing but spin. As any piece of matter, mass, or apparition, any bit of reality comes across the event horizon of the 0 point energy field, anything coming across as matter comes across spinning. It's spinning, it's baked into the cake. Spin is fundamental. Everything is spinning. And they're in this cosmic way, there's like this massive infinitude of spins, and yet there is one primordial spin. It's all coming out of the same single spin. So it's spin out of spin out of spin out of spin out of spin, and I don't even know how to explain how that is. But it all relates to consciousness too. Now, I know that in a regular physics laboratory, usually they discourage the C word. You know, you're in the old days, you'd have been thrown right out if you got in there and started talking about consciousness or God or, any of the more esoteric things. Now, I don't know how, if you're really going to understand the universe, I don't know how you avoid adding that in at some point, because consciousness does really have something to do with this. As you yourself, with your own consciousness, as meditate and get into the center of your center, the center of the center of the center, and go deep into yourself, what you're doing as you do that is, at least temporarily, and if you can sustain that in your real life, then awesome sauce. But as you link up with deeper and deeper levels of yourself, you hook up with the morphogenetic fields of fields larger and larger than yourself. So it's like, as you integrate yourself at the atomic level, you integrate with the morphogenetic field of the planet. When you integrate yourself at the no, is that no? As a biological being, you integrate at the planet. At the atomic level, you integrate with the solar system. When you integrate at the level of the proton, you integrate with the galaxy, and when you get all the way down to the Planck, you integrate with the universe. It's like that. You clicking in and aligning with the desires, the hopes, the desires, the beliefs, and the reality of who you really are. As you do that inward, you're clicking into alignment with larger and larger morphogenetic fields around you. And it's not just, well, let's not talk about what it's not just. Let's talk about what it is. I've mentioned we're a binary system, and I said the first level that you are binary. At the most fundamental level, you are formless in form. But you're going up a level, it's more than that. I have this very inadequate picture, and somebody is going to represent this visually for me. Some image techie person who loves doing that sort of thing, bringing beautiful images to life and helping other people do such things. They're going to give me a better visual than this. But for right now, this is going to do the trick. This is another way you're a binary system. So you are source energy. There is nothing around you that is not these Plancks spinning. And we're going to go back and talk about the Plancks here in a bit, because it really does matter who we are and how we are designed, and how that integrates with the design of the universe, and how our understanding of that can get us the F off of the stupid fuel energy system that we've been using for 100 years. We shouldn't have been using it for 100 years. 100 years ago, we should have already begun the transition off of fossil fuels. Instead, the momentum went down that road. All that technological genius that we put into all the devices and technologies that run on fossil fuel could have been running on a different energy source. Now, it hasn't all been lost. A great deal of the technology that we have come up with in the last 100 years can be converted. It just needs a different energy source. But all of the technology itself, that is the energy source, that's going to just go away, because we don't need the technology of the energy source of fossil fuels. We just don't need it. It's dirty. It's disruptive. Digging it up hurts the planet. It's poisonous. We drop it in the ocean accidentally, or we unplug horrible, vast stores of it under the sea and let it into the sea. It's just terrible, terrible, terrible. We should not be doing this. And the good news is we don't need to do this. The false answer is austerity, or continue to burn the fossil fuels, or just try to wean ourselves off, and we'll use less, we'll go backwards, we'll go back to an agrarian society. Well, no, we won't, because we are evolving beings and we are moving forward, and our desires are the stars, and we're never going to get to the stars burning fossil fuels. We're just not going to do it. And the good news is that there's ways to do it otherwise. And the biggest way is to understand that there's the possibility for energy equality for all human beings across the entire planet. And actually, at some point in the game, all the people who did not befoul their beautiful, gorgeous, over millions of years developed natural ecosystems, and pave and asphalt it over and clutter their skies with wires and clutter their uh, their what would you call them? I don't want to say fields and pastures, but that's what we make of them when we tie them up with barbed wire and stuff. We don't need to do this. We do not need to live this way. We can live so much better. And I see that as a vision, a bright, shining vision of the future. Now, you might be one of those incredibly positive people who have spent their whole entire life learning that the way to do this is to focus on the positive. And so you've spent your whole life focusing on the positive. You may barely even be aware that humanity has a few issues. We do have issues. Our neighbors are acting up. We've got an election coming up that I'm sure there's going to be lots and lots of news of people losing their minds. Now, one of the reasons that I'm not concerned about this so much lately is I've quit watching the news. But it's still going on out there. And in my wholeness and in my allness and in my knowing that I am the whole universe, the fact is that all of that is part of my body. And even though I'm not focused on it, it is not really something that any of us as human beings can completely ignore. We are all part of this planet, and until you hear the news that we have shifted our energy source, maybe we ought to keep an eye to the whole picture. I think that part of the system is encouraging us to all link up, you know. We all need to link up because we need to understand who we are and that we are all linked up. And then, once we solve this energy crisis, we can go back to more individuation, which is really the answer. Diversity, individuation. Knowing that you are the whole universe and your job is to iterate your view, your perspective on the grid. You're supposed to take your piece and iterate it authentically and originally. So we are all the same universe with one significant difference. Each one of us is seeing it and working with the vibrational frequencies and we're working at it from a different point on the grid. That's actually the biggest difference. There isn't really much else difference. Now, your point on the grid is not just your physical location, but also what vehicle are you driving. We are all driving human being vehicles, and actually they are a very special machine, which is another part of my my message. I want us to quit wallowing in our problems, and if we would understand how cool we are, it would almost immediately come to us, oh, and that's how to fix our problems. Huh, isn't that interesting? Isn't it interesting how focusing on the problems didn't get me there? But as soon as I focused on how cool the universe was and how cool our design was and what the possibilities there were, then as you turn back and look at what was previously problems, now you don't see problems, you see amazing opportunities. Now, there is still some problems. The problems are things like war. We've got some wars. that just won't go away. You know, it's been 2 years since Russia invaded Ukraine, and everybody's still, Putin is still at it, and the people he's still harassing are still asking, us for money for bombs and guns and that kind of solution. It's the old-fashioned thing, and the reason that they're asking is because Putin is at their door with guns and bombs, and it's just so tedious. I'm so tired of it. The reason that it's happening is because we don't know who we are. It's not just their problem, it's our problem. Because your neighbor is your unknown self made visible, and our continuing to pursue this unsustainable paradigm is causing Shiva energy in the field. You could call it Shiva energy, you could call it demonic energy, you could call it urban unrest. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's a field phenomenon. It is polarity in the field. We get this big attack of us versus them, but your neighbor is your unknown self made visible. you know we are all in this together. We are a single morphogenetic field, and what I do affects the field. Even me over here minding my own business in my own way, I am affecting the field. And we're all doing that, and you can't just point at the people who are acting up and say, look at them, it's their fault. It's just like when somebody goes to the psychiatrist knows full well that the family dynamic has a great deal to do with the person who is acting up and ends up in the psychiatrist's chair. It's not just him. It is a field phenomenon. It's a family phenomenon. And we are a single morphogenetic field upon this earth. We are the family of man. And so everybody's business is all of our business. And that's why we can't get out of each other's business. There's a number of reasons why we can't get out of each other's business. One is we have this part of our design within our brains. We might have these other places too, but within the human brain, we have these neurons, these special neurons. They're called mirror neurons, and they fire when we observe things happening. When we observe another human being doing something, these mirror neurons within our own brains fire as though we had done it. And that's a big reason why we can't get out of each other's business. Because when I see you do stupid, dumb ass, cruel, or whatever shit I don't like, when I see you do it, I feel the discord of it. I can't look away. It's part of me. It fires within my own system as though something had happened within me. And so you just kind of got to take that into consideration as you're sorting out your emotional guidance system, which we're going to get to here in just a second. I put this picture up, and then I kind of got to talking about other things. This picture is of, I see it as a visual representation of your two vibrational minds. Now, one is your source mind, the one that is purely vibrational and in touch with all the universe. It is reading the holographic information stream coming to everything across everything. It's the Planck field jiggling. It's the cosmic jiggle of space-time. It's the cosmic interference pattern of all things. And your inner being's reading that. You don't have to go anywhere to have access to that because it's everywhere. So your inner being has access to the whole entire universe without going anywhere because it's encoded across the Planck field of every proton of your body. So that's your source mind, and it's thinking thoughts, and we're going to talk about what it's thinking. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. So if you are one of my regular listeners, and there aren't many of you, there really aren't any of you. There's one person that listened to it yesterday, and I think that's the first time that she has ever listened to anything. But someday I will have regular listeners. So if at some point you go back and listen to that first one on Groundhog Day, you'll know that I did cover this a little bit, but we're going to talk about it some more. What it is your source mind knows, and on the one hand, and what it's looking at on the other hand, because those are two slightly different things. Your inner being knows what it knows, and then it's looking at what it's looking at. Talked about it yesterday, we'll talk about it more today. And then there's your other mind, your conventional mind, the one that you would think of as the brain in your skull, the mind attached to you, the one that thinks your thoughts, that one. That I see as being represented by the contracted aperture on the right, the one that is like focusing in to something specific here in this space. And this is the one that makes the choice to move into a specific and start looking at it specifically. You are a binary system. You're meant to work together. It's not like one is serving the other exactly. You you could say that the smaller one serves the larger one for sure because it's smaller and the other one's larger, but it's meant to work together. You are two minds. And so you pretty much understand your mind. You're in it all the time. Your monkey mind, your peaceful mind, your meditative mind, your hopeful mind, your angry mind, whatever. That's you. You know yourself. It's the other one. You may not have realized you had another mind that is working it's spinning. They're both spinning disks and they're emitting frequencies and they're broadcasting to the universe and they are attracting cooperative components to your desires. Both of them are. But how are they functioning? Because they operate quite differently, even though they are both vibrational. And your conventional mind is actually creating an electromagnetic field that is broadcasting to the universe. It's combining with your heart. Is also got an electromagnetic field going. You're a geothermal. I keep saying that geothermal. It's not geothermal. You're not. It's not Earth. It's a thermal engine burning at about 100 degrees for your whole life, and you're emitting uh, this frequency that the universe is responding to. Now, your two minds are a huge part of this, if not the rest of it kind of being within these two minds. I'm not sure exactly how that goes. I really I don't know everything. But so what is your source? What does your source mind know, and how does it know it? And then what is it looking at? These are really good questions. And I'm going to tell you what the answer is. Just in general terms, only in very, very general terms. And all of us can know these things very generally. The way you know things generally is generally add everything up. Because where it all converges in this place where you're not pushing against any thoughts, you're just like allowing and letting your letting thoughts flow through your consciousness, you start realizing, oh, it's all just thoughts. It's all just thoughts. This is cool. So just allow it. It doesn't matter. It's just a perspective. You can allow anyone's perspective in safely if you start learning to just do that. Flow in, flow out. Your consciousness is actually meant to be very flexible. You should be more able to change thoughts. We clamp down thoughts to the current form of the physical manifestation, and then they're like locked down and rigid and they don't change. But I think that our thinking processes should be a lot more flexible. Anyway, as I continue, what is your inner being thinking? Your inner being knows everything that is going on in physicality. All of the way that the atoms are moving, what direction they're moving, what um, temperature they are, what velocity they are. Um, it knows where everything is. Your inner being is in touch with the allness. It's in touch with the allness channel, that frequency of the jiggle of universal space-time. It's the holographic nature of us all, right? Um, I explained this yesterday. It may be true that I need to explain it every day. I'm not sure. Um, how a conventional hologram is made is you split a laser beam into two beams. One scans an object, the other doesn't. You redirect through mirrors. By mirrors, those same uh, beams back together again. They interfere with one another, and through the interference pattern, all of the information of what was scanned with the one beam is present everywhere. So before it was just present where it was present, that piece of the picture is right there and this piece of the picture is over here. But once that bit of information is interfered, once it in the interference pattern is where all of the information is scattered into wholeness all across the field. And that's what's happening across the entire universe. The Planck field is all interfering with itself. It's this cosmic divine plasma that the universe is made of, that you are made of. And that's why I know that your source mind knows where everything is, because it's there to be known. The information is it's non-local, it's everywhere. Your inner being is that cosmic aspect of your own anatomy that is reading the whole universe. And who are you? You are the whole universe. We are all the whole universe. That's what's really, really cool about this. And when you understand how very, very cool the human consciousness apparatus is, then you understand the possibilities that these problems that appear to be facing us on planet Earth are actually not problems. They are, they are kind of problems. You could call war a problem. It is a little bit of a problem, but it's not an insurmountable problem when you understand the energies that produce this. One of the things that produces it is a kind of rigidity. When we're not flexible enough to make the appropriate changes as the urges and impulses are fed to us from source, then the problems get worse, and then it's like the fault line that doesn't move and doesn't move and doesn't move, and then when it moves 10 feet and all the buildings fall down. It's kind of like that. It's like what JFK said. I think he's the one that said this. If he's not the one that said this, it doesn't matter. It's a really good thing to say. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. When we hold on to forms that are not serving us, but they're just familiar, they're familiar forms, and they're based on us not knowing who we are and not knowing how this really works. The reason we didn't get off fossil fuels 100 years ago is the consciousness wasn't there. And so it is to that end that I dedicate this program. I am serving greater consciousness only. I don't want to start a group. I want my intention would only be to get better and better myself in how I express this thesis that I have about who we are and how this works, and how our better understanding of who we are and how this works will bring us to our own peace on earth, goodwill towards men, our own collective happily ever after, our own Shangri-La of sustainability, and abundance and freedom and uh, happily ever after. Dreams come true, both individually and collectively. Answering this question, who am I? Who am I? How am I designed? Where did I come from? Did someone assist my the divine that I was working on from the Almighty Himself. You know, that divine, that that who I was evolving naturally and slowly. Did it get a bump and an assist from somebody outside of Earth? Is that what happened? We're going to ask that question too. I ask it every day. It's basically the same program every day, and yet I hope to find new ways of coming at it, new things new insights in the cracks and corners here and there. I'm basically covering the same ground in the sense that we are talking about who am I? Who am I as source energy? Who am I in my biotechnology? Who am I in my physical design? Who am I in my grand and universal design? Who am I as an individual? Who am I as the universe? Because we are all that. We are scales of information, large and small, depending on what you click and tap into and become aware of. It's you from your side saying, I am, and then fill in the dots. As you identify with who am I? Who am I? I am my atoms. I am my protons. I am my Plancks. I am my family. You know, you can see this at so many levels. I am my biology. I am my bowling team. You know, who am I? And at any given point, all through your day, you answer this question differently by which morphogenetic field of which greater group or smaller group or universal group are you clicking into, and how are you identifying yourself as you move along through time. Every time you answer that question differently, you move differently within the world. It's true. Who am I? Who am I? Well, you are the quantum field. That's who you are. And then you are a biological system. You're a biological, we're social beings. Human beings we're not all that good at being all on our own, especially now that we don't know how to make food, shelter, and clothing using any other energy source rather other than our own blood, sweat, and tears, and different variations of fossil fuel. And even the kinds of energy systems that we believe are green are not very green. Some of them pretty damn black. Um, Atomic energy is horrific, horrific, and the centralized power and the centralized social systems that come from that, all of us needing to plug into that centralized power source, is what is creating the issues on planet Earth, the the wars between us, the the competition between us. It shouldn't be happening, and it doesn't need to happen. The reason that it's happening is that those who like us having centralized power structures, the ones who like it are the ones who control the power, the ones who have most of the stuff, who have billions and billions of dollars worth of this petrocurrency that is basically trading on energy stocks. I mean, it's when you monetize, you gain the permission to plug into the collective energy system in whatever way you want, whether that's in the form of buying food or literally buying energy, turning on your P&M, account, or whatever. It boils down to energy sources have become the gold standard. They are the black gold standard. It's energy currency. Energy is currency. And isn't it funny? It literally is currency, and it is currency. When we conquer this, we get to do some amazing things that I'm ready to see humanity start doing. Now, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of asphalt. that needs to come down. A lot of it is just going to be neglected. We're not going to get around to pulling it up. Give it 50, 100 years, and a lot of the asphalt you're not going to. We have drenched the earth in asphalt and concrete and barbed wire and communication wires, and the irony the whole time was we didn't need to, and it mars our beautiful landscapes. It's killing our planet. The way we do everything is killing our planet, and the answer is simple: get off of fossil fuels and get onto source energy or over unity devices. And the very first thing you need to do with that is believe that they're possible. So I'm embedding a link to the movie. I'm going to do it for now and forevermore. The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It is going to be embedded into every broadcast I ever do. At least I think so for now. There's some stuff in there that may be a little farther along than you're willing to accept, but it the alternative to believing this is to believe that there is no answer. And I don't believe that anymore, because I have come to believe that it is true that when we ask, Source answers. But God helps those that helps themselves. And so God only actually answered us vibrationally. It is now our job to find that vibration, and with that vibrational finding will come the ideas and the inspiration and the impulses that will make that a reality, will make that vibration a reality. And that's the way it works. Step one, we ask. Contrast causes that asking. Step two, Source answers. With the implicate positive, if you cried out a negative, Source knows what you want, knows what you're asking for. It's a feeling. You have this horrible, horrible feeling about it. And the answer is this wonderful, wonderful feeling. And when you find that feeling, then you will have the impulses that support the reality of materiality, the physical reality matching that feeling. So it's not just feel good feelings and just pretend like the world is not suffering, and just, you know, put on your rose-colored glasses and just pretend like the pain isn't happening around you. Well, you really can't do that. From your mirror neurons, who are anytime you turn and look at anyone suffering, you have a reaction. We do have a reaction. Now, the thing is, the trick there is that Source always feels good. So if you're going to be in alignment with Source, you've got to find a way to feel good, even though you are seeing that the world is suffering. First of all, know that everyone is on their own. The world is divided more in circles than you may realize, spinning discs of happenings. Everyone is in charge of their own destiny. They really are. But most people at this point, I think, need a little bit of help in understanding their equipment. And then, as they learn to fly their own equipment, uh, uh, I don't know what I'm saying. It's like every man for himself, in a way. It's true. Every man for himself. You have to operate your own machinery. You have to operate your own internal guidance system. And your guidance system is telling you which thoughts are more valid about the world and which thoughts are less valid about the world. Now, the truly valid thoughts are: you are the quantum field. You can be anything you want. Anything that you um, understand, believe, desire, focus on, and don't contradict. You can move right towards. You can be, do, or have anything you want. You just need to get clear about it. You can't be in a place of, well, I want this, but I'm not sure I really want it because I'm not sure I can have it, or I've been told that it's bad for the planet, or whatever. I want it, but so maybe you don't want it. But what you do want, I'll tell you what you want. You want feelings. There's feelings. We want feelings. We want the feeling of power. We want the feeling of abundance. We want the feeling of freedom. We want the feeling of clarity. We want the feeling of safety. We want the feeling of fun. That stuff. We want that. And so then we look out in the world of physicality around us and we take it all very literally, and we're looking for objects that will facilitate those feelings. I'm starting to believe that it actually works faster if you go the other direction because the universe is morphing based on frequencies and vibrations, and you can actually help the world that you want to come into being. You can, because you know what you want it to feel like. So the answer is actually go find that feeling, and from that position you'll get the impulses, the good ideas that will create and support a world that feels like that. Do you know what I mean? If you were living in a world that was that way, that felt that way, then it would feel that way. If you're practicing some other feeling, then even if all the conditions changed, you wouldn't be able to feel appropriately to the conditions because it actually takes some practice. Now you might say, "Oh, au contraire, if you give me a world that is safe and abundant, I will feel safety and abundance." But I'm not sure that's true because we started with a world of safety and abundance. The world is safe enough. I mean, it's not necessarily all that completely safe for your physical, expirational self. You are made of meat, and meat is fragile. It's perishable, actually. But you aren't just made of meat. I've kept this picture up for a long time. The greater part of you is not made of meat at all. It's made of plunks, and those plunks, it doesn't matter. You can't hurt a plunk. You can just form it into something else, you know, and that's what you're made of. So don't worry about it. Fear not, for all is well. And as a matter of fact, fear not for another reason. Not only do you have an inner being, but every rascal out there has an inner being, and they are all trying to guide us to this collective point, this place where we all win, this win, 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 win. Because what you actually want is you want all that for yourself, but you want it for everybody else too, because those mirror neurons in you stir all the time when you see other people suffering. So you really don't like suffering. We don't like suffering. And part of what we want is for everybody else not to suffer. Now, part of the problem is that what other people are doing and what's going on with their lives, in a way, is none of our business. There is a part of it that is none of our business. You have to mind your own business. You have to mind your own business. You have to pay attention to how you feel about things. Your perspective of self, your perspective through yourself, through the mechanism of yourself, this binary mind system that you need to be lining up, this perspective system that you've got going on is sacred. And you can't avoid the fact that if you're going to look at the outside world, you have to look at it through the perspective of yourself. So you can't disregard your own selfish perspective. You need to please yourself. But your goal can be a win, 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 win. So you're thinking, well, okay, I know what I want, but I want uh, this not only for myself, but for everyone. I want when I start my vehicle and fly across the planet, I don't want it to be killing all of the precious wildlife in Africa. Or that's might be an exaggeration, but it's not, because all of our behavior is affecting all of the rest of the planet. As anybody digs up oil anywhere and burns it, it affects all of us, because our the circulation system of the waters of this planet, the rains and the oceans, and it's all connected. Even you can't even frack it through the ground and not have that noxious. We're poisoning ourselves. Gaia is a living organism in a way, or at least the biofield that blankets the surface of her skin is a living organism. Um, and, I'm not going to spend this show. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in this show railing against the fossil fuel industry, because we don't really need to. Just like in the old days when we began to make cars instead of horses and buggies, we didn't need to protest horses and buggies. You just start building cars. Now, I did point out, if the government contracts were all for stables and hay production, um, and the needs and the stuff wasn't keeping up with flexibility. That's the problem with governments. They're not as flexible as the impulses that happen with an individual. And actually, centralized governments are not a good thing. We don't want them. I don't want a President Biden. I don't want to be an Empire USA. I don't want any of that stuff. What I want is, I want energy equality for all human beings across the board, across planet Earth. But perhaps it's not safe just yet. It needs to happen kind of incrementally, maybe. But it'd be nice if we'd start moving that direction. Um, Unlimited free clean energy for every human being at the POD, point of desire. How would that change the world? Well, we have the technology to solve every major ecological condition that we've got going on planet Earth right now. From famine for human beings, which I still consider an ecological issue, to war, to Garbage Island, to the sixth mass extinction that is going on, of the sixth mass extinction of biological diversity being perpetrated upon planet Earth right now, which is being caused by human beings. Uh, how about the desert, the growing deserts? Those are all problems, all ecological disastrous problems, even from losing the rainforest, the way we cut down the rainforest. We don't need to cut down the rainforest. We do not need to cut down the rainforest in order for every human being on the planet to eat all the food it needs to eat. We just need to decentralize everything. Our, our intense centralization uh, patterns have come from fossil fuels, from our centralized energy production, which has produced centralized food production, which has produced centralized transportation systems, which has produced centralized. And you might say, well, wait a minute, those centralized transportation systems, that was a good thing, right? Well, no, because almost 100 years ago, we conquered gravity. Only somehow that information went deep dark. And so somebody on this planet has that knowledge, but not us generally. And what we've been sold a bill of goods in is that the way our technology is right now is the leading edge of what it should be. Well, it isn't. It isn't. Um, and the reason that UFOs are kept secret from us is because if you would look at how they're moving, the kinds of things they do, um, they're implying an energy source that we don't have. There are people who want this centralized power system because they are at the top of the centralized power structure. They have the multi-billion-dollar empire where they can twiddle their fingers and, create things and cause people to act, and they get all of the billion-dollar yachts and the Lear jets and the private islands. It's very intoxicating. There's hundreds of trillions of current currency, modern human paradigm type dollars at stake here, and people have done a lot more for a lot less than that. Hundreds of trillions of current petrodollars at stake in this paradigm. They don't want this paradigm to crumble. And it really wouldn't be it would be a little at a time, and they could transition themselves. They should throw their investments behind source energy based vehicles and technologies. Anyway, who am I? Who am I? Let's see. We went through the steps of creation, law of attraction. The law of attraction has to do with momentum. As you start thinking a thought, law of attraction starts multiplying it. So it starts multiplying exponentially as the thoughts that you're thinking start tagging you in to the density of the material reality around you. And that's how come everybody appears to be confirmed in their own beliefs. You can believe all kinds of wacky stuff, and the universe will start handing you thoughts on the same frequency that start handing you impulses to rendezvous with things that confirm whatever wacky train you're on. That's how come so many people can be so far off and not have any idea that they're off at all, because law of attraction keeps rendezvousing them with things that appear to confirm their thesis. So I'm sure I got a bit of that going on myself. We all must take everything that everyone says to you with a grain of salt. Add it all in as the perspective that it is, knowing that the target for everybody is just to add everybody's perspective shines a little light on the bigger picture. So you just add everybody's views in and see their perspective as shining a light for you on your understanding of the greater picture. And that way, nobody else's view has any particular power to sway you directly, but it all shines light for you on an understanding of the greater picture. That's how you do that. So let's see. Step one, you ask. Step two, source answers, but vibrationally. So step three is you have to find the frequency that source answered you with. You have to find that state of being able to allow well-being to happen to you. You have to allow the space for you to get what you want. Have you ever seen somebody all in a froth, expecting somebody to turn them down at something, and they're all mad, and the person's saying, "No, I'll allow it," and they're caught in the middle, and they're like, "But I want to keep yelling." You have to you have to be able to allow your dreams to come true. You have to allow for the universe to, well-being is raining down around you at all times. The cooperative components to your desires are assembling at all times, because your desires are the center around which your inner being is spinning. So remember I said we were going to talk about what is your inner being looking at? Well, we talked about what it sees. It sees everything. It knows everything. It knows where everything is in physicality because all of the protons are basic all of the everything, all of the Plancks across everywhere are uploading their information to the whole, their location, what they're doing, how they're moving, and remember, I believe that it's all centered around organized spin. It's like an infinitude of spins all coming out of a single primordial spin. So there is a center, a convergence of organization at the heart of all things. The center of the center of the center of the center. You find that and you click in to the morphogenetic field of the entire universe. You become one with the universe. I am. Who am I? I am the universe as expressed through this, single being. Because, of course, it has to be that way. The universe, just like you exist one cell at a time, did you know that you are some 50 to 100 trillion cells? All individuals, every one of them, an individual consciousness that is moving in the same principles that you have. They are either moving towards growth or shrinking in protection. Growth or protection. Growth or protection. Feels good, move towards it. Feels bad, move away from it. That's how an amoeba operates. It's how every cell in your body operates. It's how a snail operates. It's how everything operates. It's on this toggle, this yes, no, yes, no. And yes is alignment, and no is not. And no feels bad. And with human beings, we kind of have this way of not knowing that feeling bad is bad and that feeling good is good. We somehow think that feeling bad is virtuous and that feeling good is selfish. And we've got ourselves all screwed up and turned around. You've got to know that you're moving towards what feels good, and that includes thoughts. Your emotional guidance system has to do with your thoughts. It's not the simple direct read on the vibrational configuration of the universe the way that your other five senses are. Your emotional guidance system is a relative read between these two minds, your source mind and your specific explorational, I'm based in my meat self mind. Those two minds. Your source mind knows you're all right, knows you have every resource available, knows that you could not be less alone if you were standing in Times Square on New Year's Eve. You are never alone. You are always surrounded by a cadre of non-physical consciousnesses that are all part of this big collective project that we are all moving through time. We are one. We are one. You don't have to fight to be one. As a matter of fact, if it looks like you're one on the outside, then there's a problem because it's implying that you don't really know that you are one on the inside. What I'm saying is you do not want groupthink and lockstep. That's the oneness aspect, that thing that, conservatives are very concerned about communism. That's the part about communism that is rubbing them the wrong way. That lockstep and groupthink, that imagining you have to do it in a centralized way, from an outside in kind of way, when actually the answer is diversity. But we have not been allowed to be the kind of diversity we could be on planet Earth because we don't know who we are. We're all plugged into a centralized energy system that we need to get off of. Um, that's the reason why we have come to where we've come to, and the answer to getting out of that is understand who you are, understand who we are, understand what the situation that we find ourselves in is, and how to walk out of it. So, what is your internal guidance system? How do you work your guidance system? Oh, I wasn't going to show that one. Actually, I like to start with this one. It's just the simple list. This is showing you your emotions are a relativity, it's a relative read. You've got two minds thinking there. So your inner being is knowing all that is, and what is she looking at? So she's seeing everything that is. She knows where all the particles are, how they're moving, what's going on, how things are spinning, what's coming around, how it's moving around and when it's going to rendezvous with you if you move to the left 2 steps. I mean, it knows where everything is and how it's moving because it is in touch with the allness channel. I call it that frequency that's coming in across all your black hole protons, which I will see whether I get a chance to talk about that. I talked about it a little yesterday. I'll talk about it every day. The black holes all the way up and all the way down, the structure of space-time. So you have these two minds. They're both kind of vibrational. One is your source mind, one is your conventional mind, thinking whatever thoughts it wants to. Your source mind knows what it knows. What is it looking at? $64 question. It is looking at what you love. It's looking at the win-win. It's looking at everything you want. It's looking at everything you care about. It's looking at your desire. It's looking at... That's enough. That's what it's looking at. It sees everything. It's looking at what you want. What are you looking at? Are you all morbidly fascinated with all the shit you don't want? Are you just staring at the suffering and the destruction and the pain and the fear? Are you staring at that? There is so much of it out there, it would be easy to do. You could go into a trail of, but it's true, but it's true, but it's true. Well, first of all, know the big picture. Know what you're really looking at. Understand who you really are, and then understand what is going on around you. You are witnessing examples of misalignment. People are not aligned with their inner being. They don't know how it works, and we've gotten into this pickle because of fossil fuels. The fossil fuels, our energy needs and desires, our desire to grow food, be comfortable, be warm, and travel is killing the planet. But it doesn't need to kill the planet. Now, we have been fed this false choice of, well, you just got to do that less. You got to do it less, travel less, watch your carbon footprint. That's not the answer. Switch fuel sources. That's the answer. Don't believe the people who tell you that it can't be done. It can be done. It can be done. It can be done. When you believe that it can't be done, that's the easiest thing to shut down anything. Whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right. And the fact is we've got a lot of evidence now that it can be done. Not only do we have evidence, we have the mathematics. Now, the latest paper that has been put out by the team over at I don't know where they would say they are from now, the International Space Federation or the Resonance Science Foundation, whatever. It's Nassim Haramein and his mathematicians and physicists, his team of geniuses over there. They put together this paper, Origin of Mass and the Nature of Gravity, and it's quite detailed. I put a link to the YouTube 37-minute YouTube video that describes in full this paper, as it describes how reality comes into being and what it's made of and how it works, how gravity is baked into the cake, how this understanding of what you're looking at will bring us to the place where we can build the technologies that not only will be over unity devices, as in devices that put out more energy than they take to run, which we have been taught. Conventional colleges teach you all day long that that's not possible, and the fact of the matter is that it is possible. And the people who have built devices that prove otherwise have been ruthlessly suppressed, bought out, uh, sometimes with their inventions shelved. If it was easy enough to silence them that way, then that happened. Otherwise, threats, intimidation, all the way to wet works. The people who are protecting this hundreds of trillions of dollars of potential power and centralized power, they don't want to give it up. But the secret is out now. Watch the movie that I embed in there. Also, the movie, the Lost Century and how to reclaim it. These are just a few of the slides that I screen captured from the YouTube video. That's showing how black holes protons are little mini black holes. This shows the quantum structure, the pixelation of space-time. And anyway, so since the mathematics have been done, that's like the roadmap to the technology. So we can not only have over Unity devices, but we can have devices that literally plug directly into source energy. We can develop these little things. They'll be solid state, no moving parts. Solid state devices that tap into the quantum field wherever you are, allowing anybody as much power as they need. They can individually grow food more easily. They can shelter themselves. They can produce goods. We live in the quantum field is like a gigantic 3D printer in a way. I mean, there are laws and rules about the way matter moves across the event horizon and how momentum builds and how things gather together, and how the greater organizing pattern is feeding the biological beings impulses to move towards the greater blessings to us all. Amen. You know, we live in a magnificent, magnificent, magnificent universe. And I would like human beings to more predominantly focus upon the possibilities, how amazing we really, really are, and how capable we are of fixing every problem that we've got on this planet. From the wars, from all the things I said before, the suffering and unkindness and cruelty and scarcity and lack and fear and misery that this present energy paradigm is producing. The expansion never quits, and the fossil fuel paradigm is trying to ask us to shrink, to become less, to keep our population down, to keep our dreams at bay, to go into modes of austerity. That's the answer. Just ration it. We all just ration it, and then we can still burn all of it. We can do this for 200 years before we all. Well, it won't be 200 years. The ecological systems, a lot of what we count on to feed ourselves will collapse within the next 50 years, I imagine. Well, that's if we don't come to our senses. And quite frankly, I think we are coming to our senses. We are coming to our senses. Me on this program is one small example of us coming to our senses. And I actually feel the presence of like-minded individuals all over the planet. I don't know how to find them so that they listen to my broadcast. I can only hope that law of attraction will help me in this matter. That those who are asking for the information that I have to offer in the way that I have to offer it will somehow find me. they will get into alignment with their inner being, and somehow they will have an impulse to click on something, and somehow my audience will find me. I don't need to find them. I need to find my voice. I find my voice, my audience will find me. And that is my faith, that is my trust. I do believe that that is how this universe works, and that it is best if we operate in the way that it works and not in ways that it does not work. So, what else do I need to say today? I have covered quite a bit the nature of source energy from a technological standpoint, and the idea that our better understanding of our nature from a source energy perspective will lead us not only to better, effective individual lives, but collectively to getting off of fossil fuels. And that, I'm telling you, people, that is going to have such an enormous positive effect on the health and well-being and spirits of the planet. Life is going to become fun again. Right now, we're all squabbling over very limited resources because that's just the way the paradigm is playing out. And you know, a lot of people, they believe that the base paradigm that we are living in is a base paradigm of zero sum, competition, I win, you lose, winners and losers, uh, finite pie, that sort of thing. They believe that that's the paradigm, but it isn't. That is not the base paradigm. The baseline paradigm of reality is this quantum field that can be anything. It follows desire. It grows with desire. Our desires is what helps it know what to become. But we've got to focus on our desires. And then we get the impulses that support those. Our desire is actually where our inner being is. So how do you line up your two selves? Remember my picture, my inadequate, totally inadequate picture that somebody is going to help me with at some point. This picture of the two selves. Um, the one the one is your inner being, that's your source mind, and the other one is your conventional mind, right? How can you tell the difference between these two? Well, think about it this way. If you, within your body, are trying to locate the two of those minds, because you feel like one person, you feel like an integrated being, you do. It's really hard to tell the difference between the two of you. As you're experientially, you're just walking around. How do you tell the difference between the two of you? Where are you? Um, that feeling, your desire is your inner being, and your beliefs are your conventional self. And the way you get into alignment is you've got to find a way for your beliefs and your desires to be in the same place. Maybe your beliefs, you've left them in a place where, oh, I want this big thing that I can't have, and I know I can't have it because I look around and I see that it just can't be had. But I want it, and I can't have it, so end of story. Well, you're not in alignment with your inner being, because your inner being is that guidance forward, that movement forward, that movement to more, that desire for better, that movement, that impulse to, I want to do something. Uh, that's your inner being, that impulse to want to do something, or want to have something, or want to move in some way. It's that impulse, the imp, the imp, the imp itself is your inner being. That's where it's located within you. Now, that's seeing it from a very two-dimensional standpoint. Your inner being is actually this enormous vibrational thing that covers all the information of all the universe at all times. I mean, it's way more than just that little impulse. But from within your structure, how do you find your inner being? That's where she is. She is your desire. Your inner being is your desire. Your belief is your conventional mind. Now, when your desire becomes a problem and you start thinking it's from the devil, what do you want? It's from the devil. We've been watching Lucifer. But it's a common thing to believe that your desires are evil and that you need to sublimate your desires. You don't need to sublimate your desires. You need to get clear. You need to find the place where what you believe and what you desire are in the same place. You might need to work on your beliefs about what you believe is possible or what you believe you want. Maybe that thing you thought you want, oh, now that I realize what it will actually create and what kind of problems it will create around me, that actually isn't what I want. What I wanted was this essence of this feeling that I thought was translated into that object. So it's a question of working on both your belief and your desire. Think about it, work on it. Know that your desire is divine and you following it is important. It's important to all of us that you follow your desires, follow your bliss, as Joseph Campbell would have said. Follow that wick of life, that follow your bliss. Don't be afraid to follow it. And actually, if all of us would do that, we would find that there is an organizational point common to all human beings where we would interact and interrelate with one another seamlessly and blessedly and joyfully and abundantly and perfectly, with peace on earth, goodwill towards men abounding. Amen. There is a win-win. There is a win-win-win-win-win-win point. You just have to keep believing in that. I believe in the win-win. I believe that the actual paradigm is not the one I described a minute ago, but actually one of tremendous abundance and cooperation rather than competition. And not a finite pie, but a pie that grows exponentially as those within the system follow their desires. Source needs the template to build the next thing that comes into being, and what is it? How does it do it? It's following the desires of everything within the field. It's not just human desires. It's the desire is what's driving the system. So it is incremental evolutionary processes, just like Darwin suspected, but it's not random. It's not just random mutations. It's mutations guided by the desire of the being within that's desiring the seed that it can break open with a beak that works or whatever. It's that desire of the being within that sort of gently morphs the evolution. And so it's really important. It's important for us to follow our bliss. I believe that's a big part of our design. And speaking of our design, let's shift to that part of the program where we're going to talk about our design. This is our design. Think of this as the design of our conventional self, that the small aperture aspect, your expirational meat-based mind. This is its design. You got the lizard brain. I can't remember what the name of that part of your brain is. That base part of your brain, and then your mammalian brain. When you went from being a reptile to being a mammal, your consciousness had to shift. Before, you just laid your eggs and ran. Now you have to care about something outside of yourself. You have to focus on something outside of yourself in a way that you feel attachment to it. Not just focusing on it in terms of, will this serve me or not? Or is this a threat to me or not? But rather, I'm now looking at this thing outside of myself and I care about it. Whole different ball game. And then a whole nother ball game came into being with the neocortex, that layer of mind that makes you human. And where did this layer of mind come? Well, 76% of this layer comes from human chromosome number 2. And human chromosome number 2 is a fused chromosome. And here is the little article, obscure little article found in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. PNAS.org is the website, open source, very easy to find, published in 1991, the second volume of the year, published in October. It is the 40th article in. I couldn't find a table of contents that I was able to scan. I just had to look article by article by article. There might have been an easier way. Somebody will tell me someday. In any case, it was the 40th article in. I found it. Greg Braden was the one who pointed me this direction because he brings it up, although he doesn't say very baldly what it's implying. It's implying that we're genetically modified, is what it is implying. Here is the full abstract from the article. They discuss how after having sequenced this whole chromosome, all of the cosmids and the sequences of flanking, the telomeric repeat, da 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 da. What they're saying is that there's you can see telomeres in the middle, and then there's sequences above the telomere and below the telomere. What they have concluded after studying the sequence of this, that this is the relic of an ancient telomere to telomere fusion and marks the point at which two ancestral ape chromosomes fused to give rise to human chromosome number 2. Now, that's what this is. It is a fusion. You can believe if you can figure out how to believe this. I actually don't think that this is possible, but I suppose it's very a high probability that this is not what happened, but it's possible, I suppose, that those chromosomes just fell on each other, glued, stuck to each other, telomere to telomere, and then redundancies on both sides of this just sort of fell away in order to stabilize that fusion, and then, lo and behold, accidentally, it creates a human being out of an ape. Come on. And then also, don't we have traditions, mythological, ancient traditions going way, way, way back? You can hear it in the echoes of this tradition of we were created. Somebody did create us. Now, at one point, we might have been confused about gods. You know, we talked about, oh, the gods created us in their image, or whatever. God created us in his image. Well, that probably means two things. It means something literally like extraterrestrials created us, genetically modified us, and so we have those creators. But then we are also part of the Almighty Being, the Almighty, the oneness, the holographic, divine wholeness that we are all a part of. It's both of those things, and you got to kind of disentangle them so that you understand the true reality that we live in. So what do I have left to mention? Well, I do like to bring in the idea of cymatics, which is the study of the relationship between form and vibration, or vibration and form, pioneered by a man named Hans Jenny, who took a metal plate, put a granular medium of some sort, salt, sand, whatever, use your imagination, sugar, granular medium on top of it, and then piped frequencies through that metal plate, and lo and behold, different patterns appeared on the plate. This right here is their digital cymatic patterns through some sort of a technological device, a digital device, and put in a different frequency, and it'll produce a different cymatic pattern. This right here is more the traditional way it was done in the beginning, upper right and lower left. See those that's the black metal plate with the granular medium on it, and as you put different frequencies through it, you get different patterns, and as those frequencies get higher, more complex, the pattern gets more complex, doesn't it? Isn't that interesting? And look at the upper left and lower right, you can see cymatic patterns in natural beings. We really do live in a vibrational universe, and your inner being really is vibrationally in touch with the rest of the universe, and your emotions are your inner beings telling you about the outside world and its vibrations. Your emotional guidance system is an amazing and wondrous thing. And its guidance should be paid attention to. And the whole idea of that is what emotionally feels good to you is good. And what emotionally feels bad to you is bad. And don't be willing to go down emotional rat holes of thought. They are bottomless, or practically bottomless. Until you can break the momentum of them, they are bottomless. Now, blessedly, every night when we go to sleep, we break our momentum to some extent. Otherwise, there would be no hope. But there's plenty of hope. Plenty of hope. As a matter of fact, there is a way out of this wilderness. There is a way out of this wilderness that we have created for ourselves ecologically and socio-economically, the whole thing. Wars. There is an answer to all of this. Let's see. I have another thing I like to bring in, the 5 kleshas. If you are a Buddhist or have any knowledge of Buddhist philosophy, have ever heard of this, this is considered to be the root causes of all suffering come from this not understanding who we are. I believe it is the root cause of all suffering. We don't know who we are. We need to generally know who we are. As a people, as a species, as mankind, as individuals. So you don't have any power over what mankind does, except for you do have all the power that you need because you have power over yourself. And I don't mean power over yourself. I mean you have all the tools that you need at your disposal to navigate your system into the finest rendezvous, the greatest abundance, the most satisfying, all needs met existence that you can imagine. You have all of the equipment that you need. You just need to get in there and work it. Line up with your inner being. Your inner being is the one who knows where everything is, knows where what you want is, knows where what you like is, knows how to move. When she gives you impulses, you should move that way. If you get contradictory impulses, like you get a desire, but your belief, you got to find a way to break the stall, break the impasse between an impulse that you get from source and then a belief that shuts it down. You got to start moving in the direction of what your desires. Start small. Start small. Start believing that you can have little things. Just little things. But maybe that's a problem. Maybe that's a problem. Sometimes we think too small. Oh, I'm not trying to get my dream job. I'm just trying to get this crappy job. Why can't I even have that little thing? Well, that problem is caused because your inner being knows you don't want that crappy job. It knows that you want. What you want is, I'll tell you what you want. Freedom, abundance, clarity. I can't remember what my list is. Freedom, abundance, fun, relationship, satisfying work, safety. Actually, the other one was a physical thing. I shouldn't have said that. What you want is feelings. You want feelings, and you want a physical world that somehow matches those feelings. That's what you want. Well, your inner being is the one who is vibrationally in touch with all of the real world. So it's good advice to follow her guidance. And that, I suppose, is the last thing I'm going to leave you with. I do believe that we can make it to the promised land. So I'm going to leave you with this. Fear not, for all is well. Our inner beings are on it. The awakening is happening. Um, we live in a universe of infinite potential, and we are blessed beings in an absolutely blessed configuration. There is nothing to fear, for all is well. There is a way out of this wilderness. Anything that you see that you don't like, recognize that it's not that we are bad, we are good. We're all good, each and every one of us. Even the rottenest shithead out there is good. They are just horribly out of alignment, but it's not just them, it's us. We are a single morphogenetic field. What you do affects the field. And we are not going to fully get out of this until all of us get out of this, but individually, you are blessed. You have all that you need to make your life work. And when we all do this, we do have a very bright future ahead of us. I do believe that. And until tomorrow, I wish us all peace on earth, goodwill towards men.